What's up? We are live on YouTube with some of my favorite peeps from the Instagram. We've got Emily from Leaving Christianity, Blair from Talk Purity to Me, Will from Heretical Theology, and we also have Paige from Mindful Humanist, but she is going to join us in a second, I believe. Anyway, we are doing a Q&A, and I wanted to do a Q&A with these people because we all started around the same time on Instagram last year. And so I was kind of wanting to get some questions from the Instagram community and from people here in the chat on YouTube. And we're going to go through some questions. And first, I want to talk to my friends here and ask them, we'll bring in Paige, and ask them why they started their Instagram accounts and a little bit about them. So whoever wants to start can start.
Ladies first.
How about Emily, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So I started Leaving Christianity because I actually previously ran a Christian Instagram and blog. And so when I was in the process of deconstructing and leaving the faith, I thought, how edgy would it be to create an Instagram that was the opposite of Christianity? And I also just was so alone in my thoughts in real life that Instagram was the perfect outlet for that. And that is just how I started posting on Instagram. And that's how Leaving Christianity came to be.
Sweet. All right, Blair, you want to take the stage there?
Yeah, so with my account, Talk Purity to Me, it's really just focuses on purity culture and, modesty, submission, Christian submission, all those kinds of things related to purity culture. And I started it when I realized that so many people I knew were struggling with, these ideas they'd been brought up with in purity culture and, in evangelical Christianity, and they had really nowhere to talk about it. So that's kind of how the page came about. And yeah, I didn't expect, more than maybe like a few hundred people in my town or my friends or whatever, but it's been crazy, the response to it.
That's so cool and so true. People just people who are leaving their faith or questioning their faith, I feel like they don't really feel like they have anywhere that they can turn, and everybody's on Instagram, so I feel like everybody's like searching for community in some way, and Instagram is a great place for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was in a process of doing a 365 Bible Devo on my Facebook account. And so I was going to answer some tough questions. And in that process, I started learning into the history of the Bible and just stuff they don't typically teach you at church and some college level courses that was available online. And basically a lot of stuff I ended up saying was quite heretical. And people on Facebook no longer really wanted to hear it. And so I started my Instagram account just so I can share my own heretical thoughts, and so the people who were still Christians didn't actually have to see it and decide whether to unfollow me or not.
I think Paige might be having a little bit of trouble, so hopefully she'll be able to get in here soon. What's that?
Oh no, Paige.
Yeah, live streams, that's just the way it goes. All right, so we got a couple people here in the live chat. Pasta Mike, what's up? Matt, how you doing? So we'll get into some of the pre-submitted questions from Instagram. And for those of you who don't know me, if you're on this channel, you probably do, but I'm Kevin, and I run Jesus Unfollower. And I started doing it in October after a breakup with my girlfriend who was religious, and it sort of threw me back into just diving into a lot of YouTube stuff about dating people who are Christians and you're not, and can it work? And then I like went down the rabbit hole and found the Atheist Experience and other atheist channels, and it just kind of reignited my passion, I guess, for talking about religion. And so that's why I started.
There you go.
So here's the first question. When leaving Christianity, did you look into other religions?
When I was deconstructing, I did not look into other religions, but I did abide by deism for a while. I thought there was a God, but here it doesn't interact with the world. And that's the closest thing I ever got to look into another religion.
Yeah, I have not looked into any other religions, and I really don't even, there's kind of this pull, I feel like, when you leave Christianity that, the Christians want you to like reconstruct your faith, whatever that means. And then like sometimes I feel like atheists want you to either call yourself an atheist or call yourself a Christian. And I feel like, no, I don't feel like I need to do either one of those. And I don't care to be a part of any organized faith ever again, honestly. So no, I have not even waded into any other religion or spirituality whatsoever.
I agree with that. I looked into Buddhism a little bit just because I didn't know a lot about it. I kind of just found it fascinating, and I know some more mainstream atheists like a lot of the secular aspects of Buddhism, and so it was kind of nice just to familiarize myself with it because it'd be cool to learn more about it. But it definitely wasn't my thing. One of the things about being the type of Christian I was a Christian because all the other religions were essentially bullshit. So when Christianity kind of fell from under me, I'm like, well, that's about it. So
That was me too. I didn't really evaluate many religions before diving into religion to begin with. It was an indoctrination thing, And so, for lack of a better phrase, I guess I threw the baby out with the bathwater. Whenever I left Christianity, I was like, I don't really have any interest, like you said, Blair, of getting into anything else. I ain't about that religion life, really. I've tried to, I guess, read up on some, but not for the purposes of joining. You know what I mean? Just to kind of educate myself on what they are. Here's a question. What do you think is the best case for Christianity that a Christian has made to you? That's kind of a tricky one. The best case for Christianity. Is there a good case? I guess maybe like saying that the historical Jesus existed. Like for people, that's a good starting point. And I know some people don't believe that. And I don't even know if I do. But maybe that's... the fact that he probably lived is kind of or somebody named Jesus lived, that was a teacher, preacher, whatever. But I don't know the best case for Christianity. That's a tough one for me. What about you guys?
That's probably the same for me as the historical Jesus. I'm still not sure if I believe he did or not, but that was like the last thing I held to on as a Christian. So I think that would probably be mine as well.
I don't think anyone's ever going to convince me that we know that there's an afterlife or anything like that, convince me of anything in the Bible. But I think the most compelling thing I see is, possibly with more progressive Christians who do actually use their faith in more of like a humanistic way. I think you know, I don't have as much of a problem with that. So that's not necessarily a case for Christianity, but I'm like, you know, that's helping. Christianity is maybe helping this person live their best life. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm kind of okay with that. And I don't know, that's not really a case for Christianity. Probably like this person means it, but that's, you know, the only thing that comes to mind.
Well, I don't know what the best example is. I do know at least Strobel has nothing to do with it. Yeah, of course, I mean, it's difficult for me because I evaluate all the different arguments, and I don't know. I honestly don't have one. I mean, if I did, I would still be a Christian in some sense. When my best argument was the Lord lunatic or liar argument from C.S. Lewis, I held on. That was the very last argument that I held on to as far as faith goes. But that got shot out of the water too, basically because, again, understanding the historicity of the Bible and who Jesus was. So that was kind of a catch-22. Because I learned who the historical Jesus was, I realized that, hey, he might have been one of those other two things, or that they simply just made up these things about Jesus, which is a lot more probable.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like, I think, like Blair said, it can, like, being a Christian can help people to a degree for sure, but I don't know that necessarily means that there's a good case for Christianity. Not to me. Paige has dropped out. Paige is having technical difficulties.
No. Yeah. Thanks for doing this, by the way, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks for doing this with me, you guys. It's pretty cool. We all kind of started around the same time ish. I started in October of last year. I think Emily, you started a little bit before that, and Blair, you started around the same time.
Mid-July, I think.
Yeah, and I've talked to Paige. I guess she started hers like December 12th, I think she said.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not too far off.
Yeah, I started mine on October 30th. So just over a year. And
yeah.
Kevin started his the same week. And there's another account that started October 29th. It's the Lindsay Lockett. I don't know if you'll follow her. Lindsay and David Lockett.
Oh yeah.
They started theirs the day before I
Yeah.
did. So yeah, so many of us around the same time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
It's 1 year for me today.
Hey.
Oh,
Really?
yay! So you
Nice.
started just right after me. That's so funny.
And you all have more followers than me. Cool. And drink.
Oh gosh.
I'm just kidding.
I feel like
You also got a lot of forks in the fire, or what's that super phrase? You're doing YouTube, you're doing the TikTok, you're doing the Twitter. I just do Instagram.
Yeah, I'm spread too thin. I'm in too many places, but I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try that. So
you totally inspired me to branch out, though.
To get on the TikTok?
Yeah. I feel like wherever there's bad information, and information that shames people or traumatizes them from religion, I'm like, we need to be there too. If people are on TikTok saying some BS, then we need to be over there saying something
totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I get that question a lot over there on TikTok. Like, why did you create an account just to bash religion? I'm like, because there's people over here just spewing nonsense. There's gotta be a little bit of a counterbalance.
I'll let you pretty folks get on TikTok.
I don't know about that.
I was hesitant.
I have a face for Instagram.
Whatever, man. I was hesitant to get on TikTok for a long time, but I finally joined all the kids over there. Try to be cool.
TikTok is, people over there are so vicious, though.
Yeah.
I will say.
That is the truth.
Would y'all say it's like worse than Instagram?
Oh, 1,000 times worse. And it is way, way, way worse. If you don't want to deal with any kind of like 12-year-olds telling you you're an idiot
I'm
or
good.
something, just don't get on there.
I'm not about that.
I will avoid it.
And then you feel bad because you're like, you're 12. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to
Exactly.
mentally, like, I don't know. It's just weird.
I normally block the people who I know are kids over there because there's no point. I don't want to incite any arguments from grown ass people and kids. Like I don't want anybody being like starting to name call kids because I remember what I was like when I was a kid so long ago.
yeah.
You know.
I know. I block people all the time over there. You have to.
You have to. Yeah, you kind of have to block people. I also block morons. I think I'm creating a new rule over there where if your avatar is not a picture of yourself and you have zero content, you're getting blocked. Like if you try to comment any shit on my stuff, just to insta block because I don't have any respect for you and you're just kind of hiding, you know. So does anybody still have a fear of being wrong? I guess it's kind of like not necessarily Pascal's wager, but do you have a fear of being wrong and that God actually does exist and there might be consequences?
I don't have any fear of it, honestly. I lived so many years of my life really just being controlled by my fear of what I would do if I was living in sin and all these things. And I just think there's no point, if God is real and we're all wrong, I don't think that God is, the concept of God as this, final judge or whatever really makes sense to me. So if we're wrong and we just have no idea what we're talking about, then I'm okay with that. I'm going to try to live the best life I can, help others, do, create the most good in the world that I can. And if that's not good enough for whatever God may be, then whatever.
Yeah, I went through a lot of that fear soon after I was questioning things and on the brink of leaving Christianity. I had that fear, that I could be wrong, but it's kind of like the older I get, the more I think if a God wants to punish me, like Matt Dillahunty said recently that I saw, like if a God wants to punish me for saying honestly I don't know, then that's kind of on him. I mean, it's like I'm sitting here. If there is a God and he wants to say, hey, here I am, then I think we would all be like, okay, there is a God. Now, whether or not we want to worship that God is another question, but at least we could believe if there was some reason.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, I think every person who deconstructs their faith is going to be dealing with this issue. But the thing that they need to realize is that they are already wrong. Like they were wrong when they were a Christian, like or they had that issue because they had already denied like Islam, they had already denied Buddhism, they had already denied all these other different religions. There's that quote. It's like that goes along with like, well, I've just avoided one hell by becoming a Christian. There's always other types of hell that I become susceptible to if I'm wrong about Christianity. And so becoming an atheist now, it's like, well, I've just added one more hell to the pot. And when I personally look at the history of hell and how it developed through time, I have absolutely no issue whatsoever saying that, yeah, hell is bullshit. Like, it makes absolutely no sense from the way evangelical Christianity preaches it. It is it's complete BS, and I've talked about it a lot. I know Kevin's talked about it a lot, and there's no reason for any sane human to think that they need to be terrified about being wrong and going to hell. If they do, hey, let's chat, and I can point some stuff to you to get some more information. But there's a lot of ignorance out there within the evangelical Christian world about what the Bible actually says about this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean the reason that people fear hell is because they were taught hell to begin with. Like nobody, if they weren't taught that, they wouldn't fear it. So it's all learned, you know, and it's learned from an unreliable source.
Good old-fashioned indoctrination.
This is maybe slightly tangent or whatever, but I don't know if y'all have watched the movie The Lodge. Have y'all watched that? Okay.
I don't think so.
It's
No
so
spoilers.
What's that?
No spoilers.
Oh goodness. Well, okay, so I'm
Go
just
ahead,
gonna say well, there is actually so much interesting stuff around religious trauma in that movie, because one of the main character, she grew up in this Christian cult, and she's an adult now, and she's dealing with just the effects of that. And there's this one scene though where there's this little girl and her mom committed suicide, and she's Catholic, and so the little girl is crying at her mother's funeral because she, has always been taught that her mom doesn't get to go to heaven now, because I guess that's a Catholic thing. I'm not an expert on Catholicism, so Catholics in the comments, don't come for me. But I just think how I was watching that and I was like, how abusive is this, that because of these beliefs, this little girl now is so traumatized with the idea that her mother is not in heaven. And I just think that it was such a good example to me of how religion can be abusive, and the idea of heaven, hell, purgatory, wherever your denomination falls on all of that, how abusive the concept is. And yeah, that it just made me think of that, what you said, Will. And it's a really good movie for seeing on a screen how religious trauma and these negative ideas of hell can really mess you up. I know it's a movie, but it's really good.
Preach it, sister.
Yeah, so many people grow up in a bubble and they never see outside of that bubble. And maybe sometimes it takes stuff like seeing it in a movie for it to click with certain people,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to some of these comments in the chat. If you got any questions, you can throw them down in there.
So I got a good movie recommendation as well.
Shoot.
Man, I don't know how I'd not heard of this movie before, but it was freaking amazing, and it's called Silence. It came out, I think it was I don't remember.
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, not that one. There's no lambs in this. So I think it's based in like the 1600s. I can't remember what time period it is, but basically it's got Adam Driver and Adam Garfield, and they are priests, Catholic priests, and they go to Japan to evangelize to the Japanese there. And they found out that their higher priest, who's played by Liam Neeson, apostatized, and he renounced his faith. And so the whole movie is about them trying to find their head priest to win him back to Christianity, and in the process of how they get killed for their faith, and also, spoiler, maybe potentially, do they lose their faith or do they not? And Adam Garfield's character is conflicted because he's realizing that he's been essentially wasting his entire time doing this evangelism over there, because they're not really understanding because of a translation issue. And God's been silent to him the entire time. And it's for someone who's been going through a deconstruction of faith, it's pretty impressive. And it's a well done movie too. It's an excellent movie.
You're gonna have to
That sounds
remind me
awesome.
of the title later because my memory sucks. And I'll have to watch the live stream back to remember what the movie was called.
If it's on Netflix, we should just do a Netflix party and
Yeah.
just hang out again and watch it.
Yes, that would be fun. Here's a question from the chat from Emily. What kind of tools have you learned, do you use to move past purity culture, and how has deconversion affected your sexuality? Blair, you want to take that one first because that's kind of right up your alley, I think.
Yep.
Kind of my whole thing. So kind of tools that I have used. First of all, I would imagine that if you grew up in purity culture, you probably, no matter how old you are, don't have an adequate grasp on just sex ed in general. I'm almost 30 years old, and I literally this year, 2020, basically put myself through this sex ed program that's specifically designed for people who grew up in purity culture, because there's a huge education gap for those of us who grew up in these environments that basically kept a lot of knowledge from us. So education is super important. It really allays a lot of your fears that you have about sex and sexuality. You know, knowledge is power. I know that's kind of a trite sort of phrase, but it's true. The more you know about sexuality, the less fear you have about it, and it kind of demystifies what you were taught about sex. And then I think just being in community with others who are also going through the same thing, feeling like you have someone to talk to, whether it's in your life, a friend or someone you grew up with who's going through the same sort of thing as you, or online. There's different kinds of accounts. My account's not necessarily the only one that does it, but there are communities of folks who are, deconstructing or kind of basically debunking purity culture. And then, just giving yourself a lot of grace too and patience, because it's really hard. It's hard to change your worldview about sexuality and politics and all these things at the same time. It can feel really overwhelming. So just take it slow. Don't feel like you have to have everything figured out all at once. That would be my advice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's hard
For
to
me,
it gets
really-
hammered into your head. Sex bad. Sorry, go ahead,
Right.
Emily.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, same for me. Really looking at Instagram accounts to cover like sex ed, like Erica Smith's sex ed with the purity culture dropout program,
That's what I went through.
and at everyone deserves sex ed. Just learning about the science and the reality of it can kind of help to ease some of the indoctrination that you learned, and that's what helped me so much.
Mm-hmm. And also just,
You got nothing. Go ahead, Blair.
just remember that, there can be some really embarrassing things too that you may have done when you were still in purity culture. And just remember that you were doing your best at the time. Like, I did some really embarrassing things now that I share publicly because I know that other people are probably in the same boat. Like, I took Plan B one time after making out with a guy, and you know what? There was no way I could be pregnant, but I was so deep in purity culture that I was like, what if I am? Like, what if I did something that, I could have become pregnant? Like, just give yourself a pass on that, because you were intentionally, kept from good information. And there's no reason for you to feel embarrassed or ashamed of any of that.
Yeah, that's a Mary and Joseph thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can probably relate to that too, because I've never heard the term Plan B before until just now, and I kind of put two and two together to figure out what it meant.
Yeah. Well, you might want to stock up if you have a fear of being pregnant, because some things are happening in the U.S. that
Yeah.
you might need that.
A couple of our friends from the Atheist Roundtable are watching. Appreciate that. Pasta Mike. And yeah, follow his advice here. If you're watching, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe while you're at it. That would be pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. What's the next question here? I don't believe in God anymore, but I go to church for the comfort of it. Is this dumb?
Nope.
Just no's across the board. Yeah, I don't think so. There's definitely, I mean, there's community at church for one. You're always going to have community, even if you don't believe exactly like they do. If you go to church, especially for years, like a lot of us did, you form pretty strong friendships. And so that's one of the hard parts about deconstructing or leaving Christianity, period, is just losing those friends and all of that. So I think there's nothing wrong with that. And even if you just like going to church, and if you think, maybe you don't believe in God, but maybe you still think it's a possibility or whatever, if that's a comfort to you, then there's nothing wrong with it in my mind.
Yeah, I
and
think
there are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just want to say I think atheists specifically need to chill the hell out a little bit when it comes to Christians or any person who's deconstructing their religion, who might still be dealing with this specific type of issue, where a lot of atheists just like to beat people upside the head with like, oh, don't go to church, religion's awful, horrible, etc., etc. And like what Blair said before is like we need to give some grace to these people. It's atheism can do a lot of harm, or people who are atheists can do a lot of harm to people who are trying to figure out where they belong and how they get there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have it all figured out either.
Yeah, exactly. And I know for me, this might be kind of a controversial point, I don't know, but for me, hearing progressive Christians talk about Christianity in a way that, they use to help them be a better person or help them be like a greater force for good in the world, it's actually really comforting to me, because I'm, still reckoning with this huge part of my life, basically kind of like my spiritual heritage that I now see was so harmful. And I think there is a really healing part of encountering and interacting with progressive Christianity that, for some people might be really helpful. Like I know it is for me. So, there are progressive clergy or progressive churches that it may be a really healing thing for people to be in those communities and see that this thing that was so harmful actually can be a positive. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, if you want to see people get major hate on TikTok, it's the progressive Christians and clergy. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
They get major hate over there from Christians too, not even from atheists.
You're not selling me on the TikTok, man.
Yeah, not at all.
Come on, come poke the stick with me.
Deconstruction is just messy and different for everyone, and like if going to church brings you peace, then all power to you. Do whatever you need to do.
Exactly. There's a lot of gray area. A lot of gray area in religion and Christianity, period. Here's a question from Vivi or Vivi, I'm not sure. Long story short, I'm really in need of something. Not having anything ground me or turn to is hard. Admittedly, I miss the comfort of prayer. I think she had an actual question. Oh, here it is. How do you find peace and meaning in the world without religion and theism guiding you? A lot of spirituality requires elements of them.
That's a good question. I think in Christianity, we come from this religion where the meaning and purpose to the world is something so extravagant and big, like saving others and saving the world. But I think for me personally, really finding the little things and grounding myself in the little things, whether it be through different hobbies like dance or going out in nature or meditation, can be a form of connectedness to yourself. You can find spirituality through that, and just through consistency, you can form your own spirituality from the little things in life.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack, when your whole life is based around a higher being, a higher power, and then you find yourself not really believing that anymore. It does sort of leave this void where you feel like you need to fill that void with something and aren't really sure what that is. But I think it's just community helps. I come back to that a lot. Like just finding people who believe like you do helps define. For me, friendships and stuff help define peace and meaning. People who can relate to me going through the same thing. I don't feel like there has to be necessarily an external meaning to life. It's kind of what we make it, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, that's both of y'all, I think, hit the nail on the head with that.
See, J Mike has a question. What's up, Jesus Mike? See, this is the kind of stuff you're missing out on TikTok. We got Atheist Jesus over there. Will.
Amazing.
And he says, what do you think it is that prevents people from valuing critical thinking and applying better standards of evidence towards any claim or proposition?
Ignorance. I didn't know what critical thinking actually meant until like maybe a year and a half ago. I was literally ignorant, so it's just a matter of learning. It's when you're in the church circles, that's your life. Like you go to church X amount of days a week, your friends are Christians, everything you do is technically seems to revolve around Christianity. When if it wasn't for me just casually listening to my coworkers talk about this one guy named Joe Rogan, I would not have learned who Joe Rogan was. If I would not have known who Joe Rogan was, I would not have been introduced to all these different ideas and all these different people that he has on his podcast. One of those people being Sam Harris. Hey, the Sam Harris guy is actually pretty cool. Oh shit, he's an atheist. Maybe not. I should probably take that with a grain of salt. Well, I found out Sam Harris has a podcast too. Okay, well, let's give him a listen. Oh, he has a guy named Bart Ehrman, Ehrman on his podcast, talking about the history of the Bible. That's fascinating. And so it's like one thing like leads to another, and I think there is a subculture of Christianity that really probably isn't actually a subculture. It's just a majority of evangelical Christianity. They are just literally ignorant on how critical thinking works. And they got a few talking heads like Turek or William Lane Craig who like to promote specific types of apologetics that have some quote unquote critical thinking skills, but they don't have the evidence with it. And that's what's really frustrating. And so a lot of Christians, I believe, they simply want validation for their beliefs. They don't actually want to think critically about their beliefs, and they definitely don't look at the evidence. They just want to be told what they want to hear. And that is the problem. You have to be willing to admit that you might be wrong about something. And that is a dark and dangerous place for people to go to when it comes to their faith. But the flip side of that is, I think, for someone to legitimately have faith, they need to do that. Otherwise, they have what I would call certainty, which is not the same thing as faith. It's the antithesis of faith. So it just takes people being willing to listen to other voices. And if they're not willing to listen to other voices, then that's where the conversation stops.
Agreed. Like people just, it's a combination of ignorance and people just really digging their heels in when they're presented with something outside of what they're used to. You know, they don't want to think critically because it's outside of the norm of what they've done previously. Like you're going to take somebody who has been in Christianity for, say, 20 years or something, and then expect them to examine critically those beliefs. It just doesn't happen most of the time because the Bible has been their one source of truth for their whole life.
Yep.
And so they don't really have those external sources or other ways of looking at things. Thanks for the question, Jesus.
Thanks, Jesus.
That's a smart dude. He's got his own YouTube channel now and some good stuff over on TikTok as well.
Check him out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. I'm going to go back to the Instagram questions. Here's a little more lighthearted question. What do you feel about, or what do you do or feel about Christmas? Do you still celebrate? Do you avoid it? What do you guys do when it comes to Christmas?
We just decorated today.
I teed that one up for you, Will.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, to me, Christmas now is just about family, and it's just about, you know, being together with people and, you know, enjoying time together. And, you know, I honestly think I appreciate it more now. I know that's kind of weird to say, but I think I just have a different perspective on it now, and I think it's fun, and it's a good excuse to decorate the house and have people over. I personally have no problem with it, but you know, does it have the same meaning to me anymore? No, but I think it's fun to make good food and have people over, decorate, all that stuff. So
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Just kind of, I still celebrate it, but it just helps to kind of change the meaning around it to just hang out with friends and family and just gathering together. And you may feel a little bitter at first. I know my first Christmas as an atheist, I was a little bitter, but I tried to kind of like look at the positives of it because you do get to gather with family and just celebrate together and have a good day.
Yeah, and Christmas was always this weird hybrid thing anyways, wasn't it? Like Santa
Yes.
/ Jesus / presents / family. Now we can just curl up and watch Hallmark movies with our hot cocoa and just celebrate like being with family, and that's it. That's what I picture
Yeah.
Will doing. That's what I picture Will.
I do not watch Hallmark movies, my friend.
Yeah. I have a hard time convincing me of that, buddy.
to me, the classics
You don't watch the Candace Camerons?
I don't know what that is, so I guess not.
You gotta watch Home Alone and A Christmas Story. To me, that's like, if you don't watch those, just what's the point?
Throw the Grinch in there.
Oh yeah, the Burl Ives though one.
Either one, that one or the Jim Carrey. I never saw the new one.
There's another one?
There's like a reanimated one with the guy who plays what can't I think of his name? Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, plays the Grinch. I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's animated too. Somebody back me up on that in the chat. I could be just talking complete shit.
I had not heard of it, so I don't know.
/ get drunk. Yes, another holiday tradition.
There you go. But also, I'll say if Christmas doesn't feel comfortable for you, I think that's also completely legitimate, and you should just do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to go home for the holidays, you're not a terrible person. If you just want to hang out at home and order pizza or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't owe anybody anything at Christmas time. Just do whatever makes you happy. It feels right to you. Don't just try to please your family because they want to, hang out and do whatever. And if you don't feel comfortable, then yeah, don't do it. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with Christians who say, I know, followed by an opinion? Like, I know this is true. I know that that we're going to heaven after I die. I know that sinners go to hell, etc.
I don't. Typically, when I have those conversations, I'm like, okay, that's one.
It's
of
not
the
like it's not like they're gonna be like, oh, you have a great point. I have changed my mind now.
Yeah, it's one of the conversation stoppers.
Exactly.
It's just one of the things. Like I don't engage in debates with people on my page most of the time,
That's
and
smart.
especially when there's people who have that sort of mentality. If you're going to have a belief system based upon faith, you literally have to get used to saying I don't know stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. You can't really know something like that, know something about eternity. Nobody can. And so when you start making statements like that.
If I were to say something like I would tell this person like this makes you a definition of a fundamentalist, in my opinion. Because for me, a fundamentalist is a person who replaces reality with their own. And like this person can't know these sort of things. They simply can't. They may think they can, but they can't. And so if they're not willing to deal with facts of this reality and they want to replace it within their own, then there's no conversation there. And like I said, they've crossed the line between having faith to being a fundamentalist.
I think one thing I try to keep in mind as well, especially because, what I try to remember is that I used to be that convinced as well. I used to be that convinced of whatever it was I thought. And the people who come to my page, to argue with me or whatever, are usually young people. And like Will said, I don't engage with it. And, whatever conclusion they come to in their own life is up to them. But I remember that that used to be me. Like Emily said, if I hadn't, taken a step back from my beliefs, I would probably be running a page similar to Girl Defined. You know what I mean? Like that was where I was at.
Yeah.
But I believe differently now. So everyone who grows up in evangelical Christianity, a lot of them have a hard time admitting they were wrong, because I was wrong about a lot of things. And, now I know that and I can say that, but some people have a hard time getting there.
I always try to do the same thing, put myself in the place of some of those people because I was there. Might have been a long time ago now, but I remember one time the youth group took a trip to the outlet mall where we were handing out gospel tracts to people and like witnessing as they were going in and out of fucking the Gap,
JCPenney.
Yeah. Sir, have you heard about Christ? I remember this one guy was just like standing outside smoking a cigarette, looking at me like I was the biggest idiot ever when I approached him with that. And I was nervous as hell, but I thought this is what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are still in that boat. I need to make a shirt that says, I don't know, and that's okay. I love that quote, really.
Yeah.
Eric from Talk Heathen says that a lot. Like, I don't know, and that's okay. It really is. Like, that's the most intellectually honest thing you can say, is what Eric says. a lot.
Is Eric
Around-
the one with the curly hair?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
the one who has
I
the
like-
really cool voice. I wish I
And
had
he's
a voice like Eric's.
Yeah, he's very yeah, he's always kind of like de-escalating things. I like him. He's cool.
Very cool character. Here's a question I got on Instagram. What the hell is broccoli?
Mhm.
It's a vegetable.
Oh,
we're one of the
quick. I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but Jenna Belk. I think she just announced that she's was it her? Never mind. I think it was someone else. I can't remember, but someone on the Atheist Experience just said that they just got prego too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Jenna.
I did not see that.
I'm looking up here real quick. Give them a shout out.
That's funny. No, I know everyone by their hair.
Yes, it
apparently,
was. It was Jenna.
Okay.
Jenna's
So-
the one with the short hair, right?
Correct. Well, there's a couple of short hair. There's Val, who is dating. I think she's dating Eric, and then there's
V.
that's on Talk Heathen, and then you have Jenna Belk, who's on the Atheist Experience a lot.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
So
Are
congrats
you
to
meaning
Jenna.
V? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, V.
V. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that that the pandemic has gone on this long? Like, I was watching all of these shows, like where they were in studio and everything, and now this is just the normal way to do things now, like what we're doing right now. And
Mhm.
all those shows are doing the same thing.
Yes.
It's just crazy, and it doesn't seem like it's been 7 months, 8 months now of this.
Don't jinx
It's
it.
it's wild.
I know.
I don't. Well, Trump says we're rounding the corner, so he's literally saying that. Like, dude, we just had the highest cases ever, but you know,
I know. I just don't even. I think everything he says now, my brain just automatically filters it out of self-preservation. I just don't even listen anymore. I know
wonder
that
when-
not everyone has that luxury, but like I think my brain is just trying to protect myself. I don't know.
I wonder when he sleeps. I mean, I don't sleep. I have a weird sleep schedule, but Trump is like literally always tweeting. No matter what time it is, you can see a tweet from him.
Do you think it's actually him, or do you think it's someone else doing it?
I
for
think
him?
it's him. I think it's
Okay.
him. I don't think his ego would let anybody else tweet. I don't know. Probably his whole staff is fake news at this point.
Goodness.
Question for the panel: how do you respond to family that says you'll get through this and come back to the Lord? The Lord. Oh. This is my mom.
That's a tough one.
It really sucks, honestly, when you think about when you have family who literally think that you're on a path to hell, and they think that however much they pray for you or whatever, eventually it's going to pay off, and eventually you're going to come back, like you're the prodigal son or whatever. It's a bad feeling because it's like they can't accept you for what you are now. It's always this potential of you coming back one day. Do you guys deal with that in your family at all?
Yeah. Typically, I'm just really like straight up with them and certain in my beliefs, and they just have to deal with it. It's tough though, for sure.
I don't really deal with that in my family because I've been really selective about what I share, and I just don't. I don't necessarily feel the obligation to share with everyone in my family where I stand on spirituality, religion, whatever. So I've decided who in my life is safe and who in my life is not safe to share those things with, and I choose to protect my own mental health and don't share with everyone. That's just where I'm at with it.
That's smart. There are people in my family who don't know, like close family, that don't know that I don't believe. I mean, they probably have their suspicions, but yeah, you kind of that's a choice that you can make. If you want to, say that they don't really, you don't have to tell them. They don't have to know what you're going through spiritually or whatever, what you believe. Like I've gone back and forth. I know Will is pretty vocal on Facebook these days about his stuff, but that was pretty cool how you went from like documenting it, like you're doing your devotionals and reading the Bible and kind of almost like thinking out loud on Facebook about what you were finding and stuff, and then kind of like everybody could kind of see that path that you're on. For me, I haven't really shared much on my personal accounts about my deconversion or anything, and I have a post all typed out and stuff, and I keep wondering if it's even worth it to make it or if I will. And I think sometimes maybe it would help somebody who was like me 10 years ago. So maybe it's worth it to do it, even if it just helps one person. I don't know. It's a toss up. We'll see. I'll probably lose friends over it if I do. It's not a mean spirited post by any means. It's just kind of like, telling people that it's okay to question stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, here in the Bible Belt, the atheist is about the worst thing you could be in some people's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, sometimes, I don't know how many of the people in here live in the South. I know at least 2 of us do, but, yeah, I mean, sometimes there's even fear about like employment or different things. You have to like sort of be careful about what you say and when, because, would someone be within their rights to fire me for those things? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It depends on where you live, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, they might not be able to come out and overtly fire you for that, but they could, you don't really fit in with the culture here, or make some sort of excuse like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
We got a few more questions. Struggling with depression, and my family only sees it as a spiritual attack. What do I do? I think this is probably one of the most dangerous things in Christianity, period, is just undiagnosed mental illnesses, depression, and all of it just trying to be prayed away. Nobody I won't say nobody, but several people from my church days just didn't really believe that depression was a real thing. It's a spiritual thing, or it's just Satan, or it's your own sin that's causing this you to feel this way. And it's so dangerous.
Oh yeah, whenever I get messages like this, I always send them to recoveringfromreligion.org. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'll listen to people. But usually when it comes to things like this, like it can get kind of dangerous really quick, depending upon what their specific situation is. Like I've talked to some people who were certain were suicidal, and I had to like, listen, I cannot help you. Please just call a friend right now and talk to somebody. And that's the biggest thing. But as far as like dealing with people who think it's like a spiritual attack, like they need to find actual professional help, and not a pastor. They need to find an actual professional. And that's the type of thing that recoveringfromreligion.org does. Like they'll hook you up with someone who is an actual qualified professional, a secular professional who can help you with what you need to get.
Yeah, I mean, us people just running Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Emily.
I don't know how old the person was who asked it, but definitely seek professional help first. And if you really need to talk to someone, there's always crisis text line, which you can text 741 to talk to someone. And I'm not sure, it's really tough when you're in that situation with your family, but maybe try to look up research on the science behind depression and medical journals about depression, and maybe show them like, hey, this is a real scientific thing. in my brain like it's in reality, it's not a spiritual attack. But I definitely empathize with you. It's not easy to go through.
And I think there's a huge stigma, not only within religion, but just, I mean, it seems like just in the US, especially, about mental illness, mental health. If I'm not using the right terminology, I apologize. But, you know, I think that, again, it kind of goes back to you have to decide who are the safe people to share certain things with. So if your family is invalidating your experience or not contributing to your wellness, or if they're hurting you and what you're going through, then they maybe aren't a safe person to share those types of things with. So just, whether it's friends, the crisis text lines, or, obviously I recommend, seeking professional help as well. You don't have to be an open book to everyone. You don't owe that to anyone. So just find the people who are safe for you. And if that's not your family, then they don't have access to you anymore. They don't have access to those types of things anymore. Because no one can, or no one should invalidate your lived experience. And if they're going to do that, then it's tough, but you may just have to make that decision to cut that kind of communication.
Yeah, we're in the time where addressing mental health is becoming more and more normalized, and that needs to continue. Like getting help for getting mental help doesn't have the same stigma that it used to, and I think that's good. And it's a lot, and I think at least it's become a lot more accepted, and you're not looked at as weird for therapy and all that stuff. It's way more normalized now. Pasta Mike has a question for Kevin. Was that really you dancing in that TikTok video? If so, can you teach me? One, yes. I don't hire any stunt doubles, and I have online TikTok dance lessons, $50 an hour. So, Pasta Mike, hit me up, DM me. We'll get that lesson lined up for you.
Love it.
Here's a funny comment. It's have faith in God until there's a COVID-19 outbreak and they're waiting for science to find a vaccine. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit heavy, obviously, to talk about COVID, but it's true, right? I mean, once the vaccine comes out, then they'll be giving God the credit for the cure, unfortunately. Still feeling awful about mission trips and proselytizing. Tips on managing guilt. I never did any mission trips, but I know you guys probably did, at least a couple of you. If you want to talk about that.
I didn't.
You didn't either?
Nope, thank goodness.
I know.
Well, did you, Will? Did you do any mission trips?
So yeah, I went to Peru a few years ago, but I was also a camp counselor for 3 summers when I was in college, and so that was for 3 summers for 8 weeks of summer, and I had about anywhere between 6 to 12 teenage boys every week, and that was where I racked up a pretty high souls won for Christ count there. I laugh. It's just it's sad, and it's also kind of a joke at the same time. But I made a lot of good relationships there. I'm still in communication with all of the Christians that I met there as well. A few of the the camper, we call them campers. A few of the campers I'm still pretty close with. So that was kind of cool. But the Peru missions trip was kind of that was only a few years ago, and that kind of rocked my world a little bit as far as realizing that there's something not wrong here, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, you would. I mean, I was in Iraq for a year back in 2009, so I've seen what you know, what poverty really looks like in other worlds. But it was interesting because a lot of Peruvians, like they are very diverse as far as different classes and money and structure and things like that. And so you go to one place and they have no running water or electricity and they're not educated. Then you go to like Lima and they're just like your typical Westerner, and that's what they want. They want to become like, a lot of them want to become like Westerners, and it's like what Joe Lumen always talks about, decolonization. And that's exactly what I was participating in. Like, we were there to teach them English. That was our way in. And then as we were teaching them English, we would teach them about, you know, bringing them to Christ. And of course, they want to become Christians because, hey, that's what Americans do. They are Christians. So I'm like, that's why I didn't know how to phrase it then, but looking back now, I'm like, this is messed up. I'm trying to explain to them, you can be a Peruvian and still be a Christian. Like, I hope you can understand that. And it was very difficult for them to kind of connect the dots. Now there was some of the more educated Peruvians there that were like, yeah, totally, they get that, and we were working with them to try to talk to some of the other people, because they're just, a lot of them were just really obsessed with Western culture. And so it's kind of weird, and it's kind of weird talking about it because, like, as I'm saying, it's like I'm sounding condescending from educated versus not educated, and that in itself is wrong. But it was just a very interesting perspective, being the white American, putting my religion onto them to help them become like me, and that's a very dangerous precedent to set, and that's something that I think a lot of us need to look out for.
Yeah, I went on 2 mission trips to Mexico when I was in high school, the same town in Mexico, through the same like mission organization. And you know, did I know any better as a teenager? No. But it's just so interesting to me now to think that a group of teenagers had anything to offer, you know, people in another country simply because we were American and Christian. Like, those were the only 2 things. I don't know. It's weird to think about now, but this person was asking how to deal with the guilt of it. And I think that the only way you deal with it is to recognize that you probably didn't know any better at the time. And the only thing you can do now is recognize that and try to be better. I mean, I know that sounds probably like an oversimplification, but I mean, what else can any of us do? We can only recognize what we did wrong and try to do better now. So,
and well, we can run the accounts that we're running now, which probably help to bring some awareness to that kind of stuff, you know.
And follow No White Saviors.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the decolonization, because that's something I think a lot of us need to look out for. Thank you.
I don't have a server. I have to get my own drinks and everything.
Sorry, I have 10%.
Thank you. Oh no, I'm good. I'm good.
So
Thank you.
I had to have my wife run and grab me my charger for my phone real quick.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, fantastic. There we go.
So, does anyone else watch the Ken Ham and Bill Nye Creation Museum tour video for fun?
So I actually grew up in Ohio, so I was actually at the Creation Museum a couple of different times. Not the art, but the Creation Museum. But the tour that they do on those videos is pretty fun.
I saw Genetically Modified Skeptic. I don't know if you guys watch him. I love his stuff. He just did a video a week or 2 ago about going there. I would love to go there. It would be such a fun trip, just like to at least go check it out. Go to the Creation Museum. Go to Noah's Ark, the Ken Ham's Ark. But this comment reminded me of when somebody asked Bill Nye what would change his mind. He said evidence, and when somebody asked that same question to Ken Ham, he said nothing.
Yeah.
There you go.
If that doesn't tell you what you need to know, then I don't know what does. Oh, here we go. How many atheists does it take to change a light bulb? 2. 1 to actually change the bulb, and the other to videotape the job so believers won't claim that God did it. That is pretty
Good
funny.
one.
Sorry,
right,
my dogs are.
Oh, it's all good. We're getting close to the end of the stream here. I think I got
Hey.
one more question, and maybe we'll take a couple more from the chat. Here's one that came in from Instagram. How do I handle the fear of my parents wanting to disown? I'm not sure exactly how they worded it. I think they asked you this question, Blair, but fear of their parents wanting to disown them or threatening to disown them for moving in with the boyfriend. Can I pet that dog?
So we have 2 dogs, and one was scratching at the door, and now they're trying to play in the room where I'm doing live stream, and that's not cool.
Fight.
That's literally what they're trying to do. There's like 100 pounds difference between the 2 of them.
Oh no!
Literally, we have a Great Dane and
you have a Great Dane.
Smaller dog. Yeah. So, they're trying to fight in the middle of the live stream. So, so yes, this question did come into me, and I think that, I mean, it, again, I feel like I'm kind of a broken record at this point, but your parents don't have to know everything about you. If I don't know if you live in the same town as your parents or whatever, but if you're making a decision that's right for you, and there's people in your life that are going to talk down to you or try to guilt trip you, whatever the case may be, maybe they're not the people that you need to be confiding in. That might be hard for certain situations, like if they lived in the same town, but that's kind of where I fall on the issue. If you're making the right decision for yourself, you can either be open about it and deal with the backlash from those people, or you can choose to kind of hold it back and not have that kind of conflict. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're adult, you don't really have to answer for your choices. Sure, they might be disappointed, but is that your problem or is that their problem?
Exactly, yeah.
I think we're about out of questions, unless anybody else in the chat has one. Make sure you go follow all of these cool people on Instagram if you're there. And Blair is on TikTok as well. Follow her there. Talk Purity to me. It sucks that I couldn't get Paige on here, but follow her too at Mindful Humanist on Instagram. I'll probably do a separate one with her coming up pretty soon then, since she couldn't get in to the stream. Well, thanks guys. I appreciate you showing up and answering some questions with me. Oh, here we go. There's one more. We'll take one more question here. Let's see. It just says, what hobbies do you guys have? I can't. Oh, there it is. What hobbies? So besides bashing God on a daily basis, what other hobbies do you guys have? I'm just kidding. It's not what we do.
Yeah.
Even though that's what people think we do. That's sure. Maybe I mock religion a little bit on TikTok. Maybe I make a slightly controversial things from time to time, but that's not all I do.
Can y'all hear my neighbor blasting music now?
No.
Speaking of music, that's one of my favorite hobbies, is listening to music and just going out in nature and going on hikes.
Those are all things that you can still do during the pandemic. So that's not, that's pretty cool.
Coronavirus safe.
I know. I was going to say, I feel like a lot of hobbies have kind of been wiped out because of COVID. But yeah, I mean, I feel like for the last year, a lot of my time has been spent doing a lot of content creation for my page. And I enjoy it. And it's been really cool. And other than that, hanging out with my dogs who are trying to play in this room right now, and I'm having to hold one of them, right next to me. And, just, I don't know. I like watching movies. I like watching different shows and stuff like that. Also, when the pandemic is not a thing, I like seeing live music as well. So stuff like that.
I like waking up at 4 in the morning and going on double-digit mile runs.
Don't we all?
Wow.
Go you.
I will never,
all.
ever say that in my life, ever. That's
There have been days lately where I'm still awake at 4. Will, I'm still awake at 4, and you're just waking up.
If there is a hell, that would be mine.
Make peace with your hell on here on earth, and you'll never have to worry about going to one in the future.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
so my wife and I like to go to Disney a lot. We live in Central Florida on the East Coast. We're about a half hour south of the Cocoa. And so we like to go there a lot. We love our birds. And I do like reading stuff about theology and things like that. More or less about the history of the Bible now, more or less. But I'm a nerd. That's what I do.
Yeah, I've always been very introverted, so the quarantine was right up my alley. It didn't not a whole lot changed for me. I just like to hang out too inside with my dog, playing video games, watching sports, creating content for my stuff. Like you said, Blair, like it takes a pretty good bit of time these days.
Yeah.
to create stuff. I know for all of us, we're pretty entrenched in that. So, but I think we're doing good things. God, I sounded like Trump, didn't I? We're doing really good things, I think. But I really think so. I think it's important stuff that we're doing for helping people who are questioning their faith and stuff. And I've gotten a few DMs, and I'm sure you probably have too, from people saying things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it worth it.
Yeah. Like, I think the coolest thing is that, since, we've all been running our pages for like at least a year, some of us longer than that. I think, Emily, you said you started a few months before us. But it's been so cool to see how much more content there is now about, people living without, religion, post-religious, evangelical, whatever label people choose for themselves, whether it's atheist, whatever. I think it's been so cool because I think that, the more we, live and are, open about the fact that we don't subscribe to a particular religion or, a narrow framework of religion, it just gives people more freedom and feels like they can, open up about that in their own lives. And it's been wild to see, how much more people are talking about it now than even just a year ago when we all started. It felt like the community was pretty small even a year ago, and now it's like just booming.
I agree. It seemed like it was like all just recycled memes that have been floating around the internet since 2011, and now it's a lot more people who are talking about, leaving their faith and whatever. And it's cool to see. And that's, I think, something you said reminded me. I think it's important to know that we don't really have to label ourselves. A lot of us do call ourselves atheists or agnostics or whatever, ex-Christian, but you really don't have to. The label is just whatever you want to put on yourself, if you even want to. It's the more important thing is just like having the conversations with people and kind of letting people know where you stand. And you don't really have to make it a label.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see how many more people, with all of our pages, how many people have, come and join this kind of community. It really does feel like a community on Instagram of, people. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I like how we all kind of have our own little niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Will posts a lot of great stuff about the Bible and kind of, I don't know if you would use the word debunking, but like examining the Bible and what it actually says. And then you got Blair with Purity Culture and Emily with Faith Deconstruction, Leaving Christianity, and then me with just stupid TikTok crap that I repurpose and put on Instagram.
I love it though.
That's great.
And I feel like it's needed, There's sometimes this idea of like comparison creeps in where you're like, why, this person did this really cool thing. Why didn't I think of that kind of thing? But it's like every person has their own little niche, like you said, and it's like we're all speaking to, there's probably some overlap, but there's something that maybe Emily says that resonates with someone more than something that I would say. It's just like it's important for all of our voices to, be out there, and then we can all support each other as well.
That's true. I think, people might be in a different mood, whatever they're, whenever they log into Instagram, and something that you say might resonate, something that Emily says or will, or if they just want to laugh at something, maybe something stupid that I post is the right thing for them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's true, that we cover a broad range of things. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you follow all these cool people. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for showing up.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for doing this again, Kevin.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having
I'm gonna
me.
be streaming on YouTube. I'm gonna try to do it about every Sunday if I can. So make sure you subscribe if you're watching, and yeah, see you later.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Bye.